whatever date I said it was. I don't have my phone. I wanted to speak a little bit more about the hair factor because I thought about it some more and I realized I didn't explain or elaborate a little bit more. And I wanted to make a correction when I said that my sister was going through, it was in a Jamaican phase. No offense to the culture, to the country. I've been there, I love it. It was a Rastafarian. That's the word I was actually looking for. The phase that my sister was in terms of, the dreadlocks, Bob Marley, and, that was her life. But just the hair factor, and why I'm making this choice to embrace those parts of me, aside from the fact that it's normal, right? It's there for a reason. But it was taking that class, in those classes last semester, and just kind of realizing the impact that, society has had on women, on the feminine, really, energy within us. Because even with men, the men who have embraced their feminine side more, and who even themselves, right, transform themselves. And to each their own in terms of the reason and their why for their own transformation, right? Everyone is just striving to be more in alignment with who they are inside. And I feel like as a society, we shame that process because we're so rigid in these gender roles and what they're supposed to look like and the box that they're supposed to fit in. And anybody outside of that box is ridiculed and judged. And hair is a big factor. It's one of the many things that society judges. Whether you identify as a man, as woman, traditional gender roles, or what is it? It's just, well, no, I don't know, just what we're familiar with. The majority of the population, and the shift that's happening with people and gender and appearance, really, to match how we feel inside. And how for each of us that transformation process looks different because of many factors. The family that we're raised in. When I mentioned this to my mom, the first thing out of her mouth was like, well, I told you to never shave. It's probably all thick. Like, really judgy, right? And very, not judgy, but just like, I told you so, right? Typical. And I realized, I'm like, if I'm doing this because I connected with my niece and my niece and my nieces and nephew a few days ago. And even before that, I had seen my other nephew, how much he's grown. And I can see, he's getting his mustache in, and I'm just like tripped out. I'm like, oh my gosh, the picture that I have of him on the fridge, he's 5 years old, And just to see that, because I'm not there every day. And so you see the transformation so much faster. But it's really because you're not there, right? You don't see the little steps. So when I saw my nieces yesterday, or a few days ago on the phone, I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, like the twins are going to be in 3rd grade. It's one more year, like 1 or 2 more years at max before they start, there's a shift. There's a shift after 3rd grade. When you work with kids, you see the shift. And they were so happy to see me. I hadn't seen them in a while. But I thought of her. She's darker skinned than I am. And I realized that in our family, right, I want her to see that it's normal. I want her to see an adult that she trusts who has embraced her hair, basically, and is owning it, with pride and with confidence. And even if that isn't what she chooses, because like my mom said, like, well, I told you, and it was never really introduced to us until so and so, and then it kind of trickled down. And my mom fortunately doesn't have, only a few of my aunts have very light or no hair at all. I was not one of those, in the generation. I happen to have hair. And so I want, even though each person, each child will experience their own and conform, right, to the norms, I want them to know they can always change their mind, right? I want them to know that you can always change your mind as an adult. And I am the example, right, that you can embrace your hair again if you wanted to, with no shame, no judgment. You own it, right? And I don't know how long this will last. I'm testing it out. I'm trying it out for me, more so for me, and for whoever else wants to embrace their hair without shame. And just that's part of my transformation. So I thought of her, and it just so happens that within that same time period, like maybe last week, I came across, because I mentioned that my TV works now. I don't know what happened, but the TV works, and I don't really watch the news. Really, it's just movies. So I happened to see that they had Mona Lisa Smile, which was one of my favorites, with Julia Roberts, and it's a timepiece where it's in the 50s. She's a teacher, professor of art, and she's from, I think, California, and travels to the East Coast to teach. So of course more conservative, right? And she's, challenged, very much so, challenged because of the norm, the gender and social norms in that time period, in that location. She was embracing, more of, there was a shift, right, with embracing feminism in a different way. And it was an all-girls college, female college, and at the time, and how she challenged the norms. She pushed and challenged what they were used to, and the pushback. And in that one of those last classes where she posts advertisements of women and corsets, and just how impressionable the media is with who we are, right, and who we are becoming. And I want to be the example that you can always change your mind, that you can always keep learning and growing and expanding the parts of yourself, and reclaiming the parts of yourself that were lost or muddled or repressed or oppressed, right, by someone else. And no matter what anyone else says, that as long as you feel in alignment with you, that's the goal. So, oh, guess that stopped. I had it on pause, but I guess that's it. I just wanted to speak a little more on the hair factor and my why behind it. It's not so much of a shock factor that I'm doing it. It's more of me reclaiming that and changing my mind and knowing that I can change my mind again, but I want my nieces most importantly, because they're the ones affected most by this. The pressures, right, to conform and to shave, get rid of hair, right, that is natural, to fit in. And if they do so, great, whatever, they're gonna find their way. And then I thought about my future children. I want them to know they don't have to follow my way. They're gonna find their own way, but they can always change their mind and to become whoever they need to become. So there it is. Hi, my name is Yubi, and in case you haven't figured it out, this footage is capturing my experience as I learned to navigate my personal spiritual awakening. I am learning that this experience is unique to each one of us, in whatever way we believe we are embracing living our truth. This just happens to be my journey. And despite me having a graduate degree and a license in clinical social work, this by no means is intended to replace any type of mental health advice. This is just me on a personal level, documenting my experience, shedding light on the truth that I am learning and discovering for myself, and really inviting you along for the ride. If by some magical chance you find this content to be helpful in any way, shape, or form, please click the like button, share the message, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have an Instagram account, a personal one, and one specifically for this channel that you're more than welcome to check out. I'm an open book. I have also created t-shirt designs. I'm wearing my favorite one right now, which is the North Node design, but I have that and other things that you can look at, inspired by this process and journey, and I have the link in the description box as well as in the about section of my YouTube channel. So you're more than welcome to check those items out. Any type of support is great. Again, if you find this content really helpful or meaningful, sometimes when we take that step and be vulnerable, with showing what's inside our hearts and what's really our truth, we realize that we're much more connected than what we thought we were. And so I hope that as I'm living this experience, and that you find some type of truth for yourself, or find some type of ability to heal in some way just by relating, just by knowing that you're not alone. That really has been my goal with this process, not just being able to connect with others, but really for my own healing. It's definitely been a therapeutic experience and a very creative one for myself. So I thank you, and I wish you all the best, and we'll see what else comes next for me.